As soon as science separated from philosophy, it continued to refute the existence of the Creator's essence. However, these studies may once again confront science with something that can destroy it. By an evil irony of fate, after all the centuries of science's journey, it inevitably leads us back to where it all began, which may plunge all natural science into a new crisis. Let's talk today about what the Higgs boson is. Can it become this turning point? And how are the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, the Big Bang, and the Einstein equation related? The culmination of science as such was the explosion of an atomic bomb, no matter how cynical it may sound. At a nuclear power plant, two large nuclei of an atom disintegrate into two small ones. Their mass is less than the mass of the whole nucleus, and the difference is converted into energy. During a nuclear explosion, this process is simply not controlled. The main thing is that it explodes as loudly as possible. During nuclear decay, mass is converted into energy more efficiently than during combustion, for example. However, even during a powerful explosion, the output efficiency is negligible. In this example, the main thing is to understand the process of converting mass into energy. If you calculate, for example, the energy of a battery using Einstein's formula on the equivalence of energy and mass, you will get a number with a huge number of zeros. It turns out that the mass of one battery is enough to release energy for 250 billion such batteries. The principle is the same as with an atomic bomb. The point is that there is no need to convert the literal mass of an object into energy, as long as there are enough nuclear reactors. But what if you try to get not energy, but mass using the same Einstein formula? It is very easy to burn paper, but how can you collect it back from the released energy? This process is simple only from a mathematical point of view, but in fact it leads to a fundamental question of existence. How did everything come about from the Big Bang, when there was nothing? There was energy, and theoretically right now you can blow up all the atoms in the universe, turning them into energy, and it will not become empty. Einstein's principle of equivalence of energy and mass works both ways. So we can easily imagine what was before the Big Bang, but what transformed energy into mass? The God particle. Initially, it was any particle responsible for giving objects mass, that is, for creating something out of nothing. The process that transforms energy into mass really resembles the action of higher powers. However, for scientists, the mysterious particle became cursed. It is incredibly difficult to imagine it not only in practice, but also in theory. If you take the same Einstein formula and calculate how much energy is needed to obtain 1 gram of matter, the number will be astronomical. Where can you get so much energy? It makes more sense to start with a fraction of a gram of matter. However, to obtain the required amount of energy, you also need to accelerate the particles to the speed of light. This is how the Large Hadron Collider works on multi-kilometer accelerators. Here, scientists can at least somehow observe the collision of elementary particles, so tiny that it is not always possible to detect them. Despite the fact that it is difficult to imagine them, they can be calculated. Like the periodic table, there is a standard model of the quantum world. Scientists took all the basic particles and their fundamental interactions, and calculated which of them is responsible for what. Photons, for example, carry electromagnetic interaction, and we see light. They also predicted carriers of weak and strong interactions, and what the universe is basically made of. Then they began to accelerate protons to the speed of light and collide them, recording them with the most sensitive lenses and detectors. The recorded fragments of these protons are methodically entered into the standard model. Since the start of the LHC, 60 such particles have been found, but everyone needed only one, the very same God particle. It was even given a separate place in the standard model, because we are talking about the universe and the acquisition of mass from nowhere. The God particle is the foundation on which all other particles are built. And some particle must be the carrier of interaction and this process. But which one? Does it even exist? If not, then the mass in the universe appeared from another place, and all our physics can be started over. Peter Higgs was the best at incorporating the possibility of obtaining mass from energy into the standard model of the universe. His theory became dominant. He stated that the entire universe is permeated by a certain field. When elementary particles come into contact with it, they receive mass. The interaction itself occurs with the help of a particle called the Higgs boson. It is fundamentally different from other bosons that carry interactions that are understandable to us. The Higgs boson is responsible for obtaining pure energy of mass and turning emptiness into something tangible. It was discovered in the Large Hadron Collider in 2012, which confirmed that the entire world is permeated by the Higgs field, with which particles can gain mass when interacting. Thus, the Big Bang received the main confirmation in its entire history. For the first 10 to 12 seconds, there was nothing. Then the first particles, having started interacting with the Higgs field, gained mass, turning from pure energy into matter, from which everything else came. However, this still does not equate the Higgs boson with the God particle, because many questions arose with it. The most interesting thing is that the mass of the Higgs boson turned out to be very strange. Supporters of the theory of supersymmetry, they believe that for every particle there is an antiparticle, expected to see a mass of 115 gigaelectronvolts. The representatives of the multiverse version, they admit that our world is not the only one. We're preparing to see 140 gigaelectronvolts. The Higgs boson weighs 125 gigaelectronvolts. Both camps rushed to solve this riddle. The Higgs boson, of course, revolutionized modern physics, but it has not yet become the particle that will fully fit into our models and explain the processes of converting energy into mass. And the Higgs boson may actually turn out to be a particle of the God particle. The paradox is that as soon as this theory is fully confirmed, it will be evidence that the world was created by some external force, which philosophy calls God. This will inevitably lead to a rethinking of science, its fundamental tasks and principles.